or maybe you did. So yeah, let me know. And apart from that, I'm working on a small project, like a side project for voting too, because Snapshot has like feature limitations, I found. And yeah, I'm working on that on the side. I just let AI doing that job, just guiding it a little bit, and eventually I might replace Snapshot with that own service, because you can in Snapshot all proposals are public. I didn't know that in the beginning, and I don't want all of them to be public. It's like when it comes to membership proposals, then it's maybe better to have them in a private space. And there are some other smaller things that I think might be better if I create my own. Yeah, but that's it so far from my side.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for the update. All right, Vitaly, you shared a bit about like some of your focus. Can you give me a few of the key points? Right, you spoke about the transition to Rust and how maybe if we transition, we're going to lose a lot of data that we currently have in the knowledge graph. Um, Let me see. You talked about the trust transition. What else did you say? I wasn't taking notes when you were sharing your update. I don't know if you want to share an update now. Would be great. Oh, here it is.
So yeah,
Mhm.
idea is to get all of the features that currently exist in graph visualization libraries in JavaScript, and use the libraries in Rust to implement the same functionality of the graph, of the first directed graph that I demonstrated. That was demonstrated on Saturday.
Okay. Okay, cool. Great. Maybe I can share a little update on our brain in case you guys haven't looked at it recently. I just made a little video about it to share. We have almost 3,000 relations now, 2,600 concepts that are in here as we've been like specifically been adding instructions for it to add certain documents and PDFs that have been going in. So that's like looking cool. I think this visual is such a good hook to engage people. I have a few questions about the knowledge graph I'd love to ask you guys, but we'll do that after the check-ins. So, okay, great. Thank you for the check-in, Vitaly. Ian, you want to share a little update? What you've been focused on? What's engaging you? What are you working on?
Yeah, cool. I've been sort of doing a bit of welding. I made a frame for my solar battery and inverter. It's the first time I've gone from a CAD to like a finished welded thing. It's not really my expertise, but it's cool to sort of build up that capability. So yeah, that's been fun. I'll share some photos on the Telegram.
Cool.
And also in the AI space, I've sort of just really been sort of digesting all the information that people have been sharing, like what Vitaly's been sharing. You know, I go back and I sort of read through everything just because I get quite a lot out of that. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that, Vitaly, everything you're doing with the sharing of knowledge, and even some of the resources that Stefan was sharing around like physical community spaces is really interesting. So yeah, I haven't been doing a lot. I got a friend visiting me here in the Cook Islands, so just kind of been hanging out with them. But yeah, I'm still super interested in the space, and just from some of the discussions, I'm quite keen to work on a project to get a clawbot working locally, self-contained on solar panels with batteries. I just think that that's kind of a cool project.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool.
So yeah,
Okay,
that's me.
nice. Awesome. Thanks for the updates. Okay. Updates. Anyone else sharing? Vic, you shared a bit as well. I didn't catch notes on it. You wanted to in this little window?
Well, Well, let's see what kind
Like
of
a
details.
little more specifics now, so we can, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues has been in what's called a dynamic profiler is looking at how to move from static profiling of individuals to making it more of a living system that dynamically enables a person to evolve and within community. So the other is differentiating between individuals and communal. And so Ian and I have been looking at that. I've been really going pretty intense on how to describe what that is, because this language then I feed it to the Ian machine, and he's now got a handle on um, how to manage it, where in the beginning it was like, what the fuck? How are we going to do this? So um, I'm been dealing with this thing called the field of trust. I'll throw some names out, which is how a community actually emerges into trust and how that is critical to everything else. It's in terms of enabling the evolution of a community and how you get there, right? And how you get there often is based in values associations. So this values thing and how to describe it differently than um, principles and belief systems and all these things that we all carry, and we sort of just kind of meld them together, and it ends up they're all very different. So in the language system that we're building, it's going to be able to correlate that, and people don't have to figure it out because AI is just going to be listening for this language, the semantic of a conversation when AI is profiling each of us. So you're not going to go in and manually type in a box, I like this, I hate that, my values are this, my no, it's going to be in and through a dynamic conversation with the AI system based on the dynamics that of my input and AI's Ian's support in terms of getting this thing to run like a feeling machine or more like a living system rather than this structured thing that we typically use to label people. So I'm very excited about that. But it won't, this is why it's so critical that we tie it with what seems to be Vitaly. I don't know, who else you're working with? I know with Ian, but and even um, there's a number of you working on these structures and these frameworks and inputting the data of what informs a community's health and well-being. But unless they're tied together, I'm convinced they're just this is where I think actually most communities collapse, is because they keep those two things separate. So now that we have AI and it can deal with the extreme complexities, we just our little brains, now we have this extension to our brains. I see AI as an extension of me, not this technology over there. It's an extension of me. And to work with it in that more relational perspective, I think we're going to come up with some really interesting things. So I'm really excited about that. If anybody has any questions, fire away.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I made some time here on this call. I'm like structuring these calls a little bit based on the previous calls that I've seen. And so I've broken down into each person sharing an update so we can like fill the space with what's going on with all of us in this space. Next is like some goals that we want to set. And at the end, we'll have more questions and answers for each person. We can do it now throughout as well, just so you guys know kind of like what we'll be covering during the call. I'm also all the resources that are getting dropped in the Zoom chat. I'm making sure to upload them here in this resources shared section. And then at the end of the call, we'll all agree on some after actions to this call. So we all have like whatever our takeaway is, calls we have with individuals or whatever. And that way this can keep track of that. Because as we upload this also, this image of this PDF to the knowledge graph, it should be helping us in the process. Okay, cool. Which I have some things to talk about, but let's keep going with the check-ins. Okay, thank you, Vic, for sharing that. Eric, you want to share something?
Well, I haven't done any actual technical coding or anything of that. That's not my expertise at all, but I've been philosophizing a lot, that's for sure.
Dude, yeah, that's super valuable. You know, adding thoughts and then making sure you tell it to like, hey, right, like add this to your knowledge base. Once you do that whole like theory discussion.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw what I've been talking to it about in the bot playground, but it does, for the most part, find some interesting things. And I guess we did find the Chinese secret society of Firelight by accident, so that's cool. I don't know if you saw any of those conversations, but yeah. Unfortunately not just networking, and I've been just doing stuff in my own life, just working with my local friends and family, if you will. So
Cool.
just keeping things rolling.
Awesome, man. Yeah, you know, boots on the ground stuff, right? You doing stuff on the ground, property with people. Same with Ian, welding and
Yeah.
doing stuff, right?
Mm.
It's like a tricky world to like operate the physical world and the digital world, and I think we're doing our best at that. So,
Mhm.
yeah, thank you for being grounded. Okay, nice. Thanks, Ian. Cam, you want to share anything? You shared a little bit at the beginning. I didn't get to write it down.
No, I
Just
don't have
doing the-
anything technical to offer right now. I'm just being a fly on the wall and learning and listening.
Okay, cool. Okay, Sonia, you want to check in your hero?
I can sit closer to you.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I think nothing technical from my side to share. I would love to, I don't know if this fits the agenda of the call, but I would love to hear more use cases for agents like OpenClaw. I know you guys use ZeroClaw. So if there's space for that on that call, I would love to hear, because I'm looking forward to setting up my own, and I just want to know what are some challenges and also wins that you guys encounter doing that. Yeah, happy to be here. Also flying on the walling like camera, listening to you guys.
Good. Thank you. Okay, cool. All right. So we did our check-ins. I think the next agenda point for me that's important is from last call, like homework assignment for me was, okay, what are some goals, deliverables, or products that we see being created to accelerate both the creation of this framework as the micro, right in front of us task, and as the macro for the whole regenerative neighborhood movement. I shared an example here of like one thing that came to me very recently while seeing how a lot of social media kind of technical developers are using OpenClaw. I imagined creating a dashboard that shows news harvested from websites, social media pages, blogs, WhatsApp channels, Telegram groups, and just general keyword scrapes that are focused on regenerative neighborhoods and updates from existing projects, people sharing new projects coming online, and displaying all of that in one place as a bit of a dashboard for the regenerative neighborhood movement. One thing I've noticed really motivates people to get involved is they see what other people are doing and what's happening. My intention from the beginning was that the Tribes platform would be this. But the reality is there's so many social media platforms and there's so much stuff going on. People can barely post on their website or their Instagram or their Facebook page. And so I think it would be a really awesome micro project to create an agent that, right, I saw some influencers that they give their agent a bunch of blog sites and it harvests all the news and puts it on a dashboard for them. So they have like, oh, this blog about this website did an update, this social media account shared these things. So I imagine working on something interesting that harvests information and shares a dashboard of the regenerative neighborhood movement, new projects, existing projects, people in the space, news about things. And that becomes an interesting landing page that's like an aggregator of information. And then that leads people to whatever other products or things that we're working with. As a thought, that was an idea. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
I think that's a really cool idea, Oscar. And I think while it's going around in your mind, I think the best thing to do is to start to capture that as a specification markdown file. So like work with an LLM to start to articulate that idea into a technical document that an agent could execute. Because I just think we should be getting to a point where we go from idea to built in as fewer steps as possible. Like so. The goal would be that the Regen Tribes has an infrastructure in place, that there's a development pipeline, like whether that's Ralph orchestration, mixed with a bit of Genesis. But so yeah, I would sort of think that while that idea is fresh in your mind, like you explained it really well, then capture that as much as you can in a specification markdown file. Like describe feature 1, describe feature 2, describe feature 3. And then once that's captured, then it should be just a matter of handing that off to your OpenClaw, or our internal development pipeline, which, we're currently experimenting with. So yeah, just wanted to add that. Any idea, it's almost, I think the technology is there now that you can just kind of go from a rough idea to a prototype in not very long at all.
Yeah. I agree. I'm doing my best to set up my own kind of ecosystem where I can like feed it info, and already it has a few skills that are like, okay, create the plan effectively, and I can do that. And I'm like really engaged right now with what's going on in the space. It's like one of those moments that if you get it now, you're able to really like 2, 3, 10x what your abilities are through basic technical development and integration of stuff. Yeah,
I would be quite keen. I think the more the community members are able to build things themselves, the better, And I'd be quite keen to sort of maybe run a workshop where we're kind of like teaching people how to make use of the development pipeline to build stuff. So it's like, you're spinning up experiments, Vic's spinning up experiments. Everyone's just kind of like using these tokens to build prototype regenerative tools. And, they're not all going to hit. They're not all going to be great. But I think the more we're building and experimenting and prototyping, I think that's just a really good use of energy, It's kind of cool.
I agree, right? Like definitely the tools are going to keep getting better that will make it more like easier and create tighter scope projects. But right now I see it's definitely the moment where with limited technical skill, you're able to set up an agent and give it instructions instead of by writing a program, by describing in a markdown document as a skill what it should do. And then also same markdown, adding a tool that allows that agent to do something interfaced with your computer. And that's been the biggest understanding that I've made of like how a basic LLM tool that can create text can now use tools to interface with your computer and have skills that are like micro programs, but instead of, again, through development and software development, described in Markdown and running through that piece.
Yeah, like it'd be cool if we get to a point where we're like these conversations, we're sharing Markdown files, and we're going like, here's an idea I'm playing with, and like we're actually going over the Markdown, and then I might say, oh, have you added this part? Have you considered this part? And so like we've got tangible artifacts that we're really contributing towards, and then instead of I just think it's a way to capture our ideas into tangible things that can then be actioned on by an agent.
Agreed. Okay, I have a point to bring up on that. That's this one that I just wrote down. Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree with that. I think a request is going to be for me, it really helps to have like a bit of a visual. The thing you did here on the Telegram, on the here, this description that you gave us here of like this, Ian, thank you for putting this together. This has helped me so much to like navigate like the visual of what's happening, where certain things live. And like for more technical software mind people, this is like probably pretty basic, but to understand the architecture of like this little description that you gave here. If anyone hasn't seen this, I really invite you guys to read through this because it really describes what's happening behind the scenes, right? Where the Genesis bot lives, how we're using OpenClaw, how Minimax is the model, the brain, you can say, of the thing, how it's running on a server. I have a question on, the knowledge graph, that tool that you guys installed, Ian and Vitaly, like, is that just a visual representation or does it affect the database structure of how knowledge is stored? Question for you guys.
You want to go, Vitaly?
So,
Or
storage
do you
part
want?
is unsolved. There is, so it's like it's completely unstructured in my opinion, and all of my attempts to organize it in some structure eventually collapsed. So I'm quite kind of distanced from this because I don't know how to organize it correctly in SurrealDB, for example.
Okay.
But I hope we can figure out what kind of schema should exist there, which will shape the knowledge. So I don't know the answer yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's storing the knowledge. It's trying to map relationships between the knowledge that it ingests, and I think, but yeah, we haven't really, at least on my end, I haven't done enough testing to fully understand how it's comprehending a lot of that knowledge. So I haven't done enough interaction with it in terms of making queries to the knowledge graph. So I don't really understand the sort of limitations of it. One sort of question that I'm wondering, that I'm not sure of myself, is how it relates to the source material. So what we're looking at on your screen, Oscar, is sort of it's extracting out entities that it can identify from source material, and it maps relationships between them. But I'm wondering, how is it still retaining the contents of the source material? So I kind of need to run my own querying of Genesis to sort of test that. So yeah, this was sort of just an experiment that myself and Vitaly kind of vibe coded in a couple of days. So we're not really too sure what the use cases are, but I feel like it is at least capturing the knowledge that we're giving it, and we should be able to, the bot can at least recall that information, but I haven't tested the boundaries of that yet.
Okay, yeah, because
Could
I
jump
guess
in on that?
go ahead,
Vic. Hey, you guys, I'm wondering, because are we dealing with how the system remembers? So
yeah,
it's one thing to input the data, and in the old days we just stored it and it was always there and it's static and it pulls on it. But I think memory is more dynamic than that in terms of a living system. So I'm wondering if the system right now is probably potentially losing data after it accesses or provides it, or is it evolving on it, right? Because then you'd need a loop back to make sure that it keeps what it has, but then also sort of evolves its awareness, which moves it not just from intelligent, but knowledgeable, and for me, wisdom. And so, any thoughts on that?
yeah. I would like people to kind of poke Genesis to query the knowledge graph to kind of test it. Like to say, do at Genesis, looking at your knowledge graph, what correlations can you see between integral and, like just try to think of extreme queries that you would hope that having a knowledge graph could do, just to kind of test some of those things. Because I haven't done it myself. But technically, we do have a knowledge graph that by all means is kind of like best practices with current technology. Like the knowledge is all being vector embedded. So it's kind of like technology wise, it is kind of a best practices thing for knowledge graph, because that's kind of like what we were querying, like prompting it to build. But I just think that's only like a step one. Like,
Right.
so it's there, but we kind of need to do the step two interfacing with that. And so an example is Vitaly and I were experimenting with the Ralph orchestration tool. So that's just another framework that someone's developed that kind of just gets it into an iterative loop. So you can set it to develop a task and it will just keep going until it's completed. And so I prompted Genesis and Ralph to build a prototype where you could click on a chain and it would tell you the relationship between them from the source material. Now that didn't work, but that was an example of an attempt to build a next layer or interface with that knowledge graph. So the knowledge graph is there, but by itself doesn't tell us a lot. We need to think of what's the layer on top of that knowledge graph that we are able to then extract that wisdom from. So Oscar, if you just want to go graph.regen tribe.
That makes sense.
Yeah, let me go there.
Because we think, we're talking in, the regular corporate America here is that they are knowledge-based organizations, but they're not. They're just highly managed, very complex information systems. And I think there's a leap from information to knowledge to wisdom. And how we use AI will never maybe be wisdom-based, but I think it can able wisdom in us through the right kind of knowledge graph, this layer that you're talking about, Ian.
Yep.
You were going to add something. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Oscar, if you want to open a tab and go to graph.regentribe.org/ graph. Oh, hang on, I'll put it in the chat, will be easier.
Okay.
So this is just an example of a prompt given to Genesis, that gave it to Ralph, because Ralph is another agent that does the actual building of things.
Right.
And it doesn't really work how I intended, but it's an example of an attempt to build another layer, an interface layer on top of the knowledge graph.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here it is. Okay.
So yeah, it would be interesting for the members to kind of think, okay, what would I like to know, assuming that this knowledge base exists.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So the idea was you could click on it and then go start chain. If you click on start chain, and then you should be able to click on another one, but it didn't really work. But what was impressive that it kind of got pretty close just off of a prompt in Telegram.
Right. Like you told it in Telegram and it went to the Ralph bot and created that as a task. And it's okay. So the Genesis bot is running on that server that you set up. And so you set up another agent in that same server. Is that how you're doing that? I think this is what I'm still trying to understand well in myself, is like, when should you create a new agent instance and when should you create just like skills and tools for stuff?
I think you should always just create skills. I don't think you need another agent unless you've decided I want this agent to be, focus on a certain thing compared to my other agent. Like you might want them to start specializing. But I think if you're just getting started, I think you're better off creating skills and getting familiar with that. But to answer your other question, yeah, Ralph is a piece of code that someone wrote that leveraged this idea of like recursive development. Like it just keeps going until it achieves the task. And so they created the code base for that, and then we installed it on the server. And because Genesis is also on the server, you can say, "Oh, Genesis, give this specification markdown file to Ralph," and it would, and then Ralph would say on our chat, "Oh yeah, I'm doing the thing now."
Okay.
So Ian, what does the flow in the lines represent?
When the LLM ingests any data, it's making connections between the entities. Like so, if you can see on the left-hand side there, if you just pause for a sec, it says connected nodes. So master plan is the node, and then it's saying produces gate 4, contains site analysis. So see how, and it's got an arrow, so it's saying gate 4 produces master plan because of the direction. So they are directional relationships.
Right.
So it's representing a transfer of information from node to node?
Yeah, like it's the relationship. So there are these verbs that like there's, I think we can see there's produces, contains. I know there's like relates to, as part of, like all these things.
Right.
That's the ontology. Yep, go.
Like gate 4 is referencing the, after we put in all of the data from the first like 10 calls into the LLM, and we made the first version of the framework tool, like the AI designing, here's the best way to create a framework for developing a regenerative neighborhood. Gate 4 is the fourth step in that framework journey, from like meeting the core team was gate 1. Gate 2 is this even a financially feasible project? Great. Gate 3 was, okay, design the place. Gate 4 became, okay, now that you have the requirements you need, now let's do the master plan. So it's related to gate 4 in that after gate 4, during gate, like the next step, you have to do the master plan. So that relates directly to the framework that we fed this and asked the Genesis to integrate that information. So that's super cool to see that. I don't know if you guys have looked through that document, but gate 4 is where that's what gate 4 is. Yeah.
So you're saying gate 4 is a stage in the evolution of a project management program.
Right. Like, remember, the goal of these calls at the beginning, when we started with a initial goal was, okay, we want to create a framework, a tool that people use that guides them through creating a community project. Right, as Regen Tribe, we had already this thing called the Alchemy Guide, which asked you questions and you got information. But the framework we defined as not only what you have to focus on, but how you apply that information to make your project real. And one of the solution the AI gave us was, okay, you should break up your project. I can show you guys here. I have it. You can break up your project by going gate by gate. So let me get in here for 1 second, just so I can show you guys this. Well, anyways, just I'll open it in a second.
While you're looking at that, because I'm wondering about visually, what I see is there's a lot of nodes, and these nodes are knowledge bases in themselves, right? And somehow AI has said that these 10 nodes, there's a lot of energy right now going into that yellow center node. There's a lot of fluid flowing information from all these knowledge sources. But then, so what is that yellow dot in the middle? Or am I describing it completely wrong? Maybe it's showing something completely different.
Hold on, which one? This white one in the middle? That's master plan?
Oh, mine's, yeah, my green. Yeah, so that white one in the middle, you see how
Yeah,
everything's flowing into it from these
yeah,
other nodes?
right.
So it's being informed by all those other nodes, right?
Well,
So,
this thing you made, Ian, is really good, man, because it really answers a lot of those questions that the original knowledge graph didn't. This one tells you here, like, okay, it says gate 4 produces the master plan. So there's a relationship there between the back and forth, which is very, very cool to see that, right? Other things like the
well,
master plan.
maybe it is going back and forth. I think I've got a timing problem on my screen. It's not all
Oh,
flowing in one direction, right?
no, they're yeah,
Bi-direct.
some of them are both are bi-directional. Some of them are monodirectional.
Yeah, good.
So, as an example, right, I know that the idea of master plan contains a thing called site analysis because when you do a master plan is the top umbrella, right? I look at this as nested folders. Master plan is the top folder, and within master plan, you need to do a site analysis. So that's what this is describing. That master plan, if you see my screen here, it contains site analysis. So I see it as that kind of relationship where when you do a master plan, you do a site analysis in part of that. Gate 4 is a different idea, which gate 4, the relationship between gate 4 and master plan is when you do gate 4, you have to do a master plan. So it's not
Showing
necessarily
the
that
corollaries of things that got to be done in order to make a healthy master plan, right? So what you're showing now is there's 4 other primary points that are critical, each of which has information and knowledge in order to complete a full, healthy master plan, right? Assuming the white dot is the master plan. Is that
right.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes. That
where are the humans in this? We're
where are the
talking
humans?
all data, information, structure, data. Where's the humans? Where's the
Right. I mean,
humanization?
the humans are definitely mapped. I've seen like people's names that brought up topics a lot. Like here, like look, here's Justin Lofton. Justin Lofton has talked about the master plan for his community. As a
Okay.
result, he is mapped to this topic of master plan.
Oh,
As
good. Good.
Justin Law, like you can
Yeah.
see it here. Master plan. I've now clicked on the master plan bubble, so it shows all the breakdown of the relations here on the left. Which Ian, this is super cool, dude, that you did this, and even cooler that you did it by telling the Telegram and having this agent build it. Like epic, dude. This is epic. um, so again, here we're looking at master plan, and the relationship between master plan and Justin is that a master plan points at Justin as it says plans. I don't know exactly what that like term means, but now that I've clicked on Justin here, right, he's the white dot in the middle, it shows that he rejects GDP. So that's the relationship between the idea GDP and Justin. He has shown a rejection towards the concept of GDP. And that's the relation between those two nodes. And again, we can go back to the master planning one. Here's master plan. Justin Lofton, right? Justin Lofton, which we're looking at, has plans to do a master plan because that's what he's doing for his community. He shared that with us in the chat in some instances of, oh, here's my presentation. Maybe we even uploaded the presentation to the knowledge graph. I'm not sure. Potentially. I don't know if you did that. Did you do that, Justin?
I think
Don't remember.
what
Maybe
I'd be
not.
interested in, Oscar, is if everyone here on the call
Yeah.
maybe described what they would like the knowledge graph to be able to do, because then that might kind of help us create some tests
Sure.
to see, does the knowledge graph do this? If it doesn't, then what do we need to kind of build to be that next layer that gives you this information.
Sure, that's a good one. So I'm adding this here is like, what do we want? What do we want the knowledge graph to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to help us best understand the data. We can best make sense of the data.
Hey,
like,
Ryan,
honestly,
and Ian, can you make the flows different geometries so it's easier for the eye to see flow aspects?
Yep, everything's possible. It's using a 3JS library, so it can really be any kind of visualization you can imagine, really.
Right. Well, why? So why would I ask that? I mean, who knows why I'm asking that? Why is the direction of flow important?
but like, okay, your request is you want a different geometry. Like, I see little dots flowing in the right, like all of the dots from Justin are pretty much flowing out. I see here. Whereas in master plan, I see different relations where some are flowing in, like this orange one right here. What is this? This is co-creation framework. This is feeding both in and out of framework.
Okay, it might be an screen update issue that I can't tell the flow.
Right. Maybe the frame rate is weird. Did you try going to the site yourself?
But that's gonna be important because people aren't gonna have high frame rates, on some of the just simple points in terms of
Sure.
what we're showing.
But you're looking at it because you're seeing my screen, or you're on it yourself on the website.
It's not on your screen. You have Miro on your screen.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm saying is flow and direction of flow is going to be extremely critical to how communities evolve. And if they're depleting themselves because they've got high flow out and no flow in, that's going to be a danger sign, right? Or vice versa, they're over accumulating. So we want to be looking at the balance of flow in how communities build themselves and interrelate with each other.
Yeah.
Vic, I think it would be really useful if you explored the knowledge graph and had a look at some of these things and feed back to us some of these ideas.
Maybe we obviously this is an offline thing, but maybe we can spend some time doing that.
Dude, this is so good. Ian, this update you made is so great, man. Like, this really gives you not just like looking at all the dots and like clicking one and seeing, but like how it describes the relationships. Like, so this information, okay, I guess my like still persisting question is, this Genesis bot had some kind of memory system, right? Well, from what I understand it, like takes chunks and then creates some vector graph in a database to make sense of information, to understand what it needs when it gets asked questions. When you guys added this knowledge graph repository, did this affect the way that it stores info, or is it storing info the same and this is just providing a visual?
No, it's a whole new way of storing the data.
It's a whole, so this is like a whole, let's call it maybe a skill on how it stores information plus a visual element.
Yeah, correct. There is a skill called semantic graph that has special scripts that it runs to ingest data and to store it. It's got special scripts to retrieve data. But yeah, ultimately it's got a full custom backend connected to Surreal DB, which was it's a Rust-based visual graph database that Vitaly put us onto.
And so does it keep a history of those changes when it does it? So this is back to memory.
Of which changes, sorry, Vic?
Well, so there's all these exchanges going on, right? And you're saying it's a whole new way of storing the information. So it's more dynamic than static, right? We're moving toward a dynamic storage of the knowledge. But in order to reflect on that change, the old has to be there too. Because if AI fucks up, I mean, we've got to be able to correlate and look at, the chain of events that got him to store it, or the evolution. So it's good and bad. So dynamic doesn't mean just allowing it to change and now that's all that's stored. It means being able to correlate it with time historically.
Like you're saying like a log of changes that have been made.
So it would be a log of change. It's, you know, it's sort of like uh you know, the Bitcoin chain, the
Sure, the blockchain.
blockchain, thank you. It stores
Right.
everything, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't do much with it on somebody except, you know, FBI goes in and tries to get you. Then they go and they linearize through all these transfers. But what this is pointing to is a dynamic change going on ideally in real time, at least in slightly less than real time. And in order to evolve the system's awareness, that would have to happen. So this is a time-based issue and storage of memory issue, which, yeah, suddenly we need a magnitude of 100 of data storage.
Okay, so I think this would be like an example of what Ian just asked. He goes, okay, what would be a request for the memory, right? So like one of them would be that there's like, you know how on Google Docs, you can say like, oh, let me see the history of like things that have been added or changed. History of memory edits, you can call it, right? So that's like a request. That can be like, from what I'm understanding now, shared, and this thing Ralph will receive, this agent Ralph will receive that and be like, okay, let me start building that out. Without even Ian needing to get in there and do it. He'll just be managing Ralph receiving that request and starting to build that out. Is that right, Ian? Am I like understanding well?
Yeah, correct. Once we get it all sort of established and tested and working well, that's the ultimate goal.
Right. Right now it's Ian, Vitaly manually like receiving requests and telling a thing and watching it. I think this is like one of these big goals. So like here's one of these big ones, Ralph orchestration tool, which is like what aligns with the big goal of having a developer. How would you call this, Ian? Having a developer like a development pipeline, you said?
Yeah, development pipeline. Yep.
Process, right. And this is Ralph is one of those implementations.
So like, for example, I pay for Claude Code just on the basic plan. And it gives you a certain amount of tokens you can do every 5 hours.
Sure, it
runs so what
fast.
I was thinking, it does. So what I was thinking was building a skill where Genesis or whoever will just poll Claude to kick off a 5-hour window, and then because you make a request and then it starts your 5-hour window,
right?
And then so do a skill that polls to start a 5-hour window, and then at the end, like maybe 4 hours and 30 minutes, it'll go and have a look at our pile of MD files that we want to develop, and it'll just start building that one on the list using Ralph. Because there's plenty of
every time it refreshes, running it.
Yeah, because there's plenty of 5-hour windows that I don't actually use any tokens.
Dude, I have nightmares about it.
Yeah, so like that would be an ideal use of a subscription where you have an agent that's automated. It's going to jump in. It's going to have a look at our folder of MD files that the community have just put in there because you've thought through an idea, you've saved it to an MD, and you're happy with where it's at, and now it sits in that folder waiting for the agent to start building it. And so it could do this every 5 hours or whatever.
So like a bit of reference on that one, when you use Claude Code, you get like X amount of tokens per 5-hour window. So if you do too many requests and ask too many questions and it's building, it runs out of tokens and it goes, oh, you can't use Claude Code until your next 5-hour window. So this is a really cool idea to do a skill that every 5 hours is just querying it, right? When I'm sleeping, I miss those like 1.5 to 2 windows, or when I'm doing other stuff. Right. I'm like, damn, that's just like free money I'm throwing out of the window, free development service that I'm not making use of. That's a super cool idea.
But it's that shift. It's that shift as for us as regens that want to build a better world. Like it's a shift from saying like let's try and focus some of the things we want to build into a specification document
Right.
that an agent can then execute on. So I know, myself, I write spec docs. Vitaly probably writes spec docs, but we should probably be developing that skill that everybody in the community that at least is thinking about building stuff is has that ability to write spec docs that then go off to the agent.
Right.
And I'd be happy to sort of run a thing like run a workshop where, hey, let's just jump on a call. Everyone brings an idea, and then we just write a spec doc together. And now we got a folder full of like 5 or 6 spec docs ready to go.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna add that as like, okay. So on the board, I'm also doing some after action stuff. So far, I have Vic and Stefan having a call on organizing people data, and now Ian, I'm adding here. Ian is host a call to work on spec doc processes.
Hey, Oscar, my invite is the 4 people that talked corollary to the work I was doing, which is Stefan, Ian, and Vitaly. So there's 4 of us, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
It's an invite. We haven't set anything up yet. And we'll see if people are interested.
Vitaly, Ian. Cool.
Stefan said yes, but
yeah, I'm in for that call as well. I'm going to sign up for that. I'd like to
come on in.
Yeah, cool. Okay, nice. So yeah, after hours. Okay, so you already put that one. Okay, cool. Ian, I think that's a great idea. The spec process. I think that comes very intuitively. My like mentor, best friend is a developer, and that's the way he thinks, right? Like ideas, but then you chat it out with like now an LLM, and it creates like your executive summary of like, this is the main idea in one sentence. And then, okay, to do that, here's some goals that need to be met. And here's some processes, or I don't know what do you have a template for like one of your spec docs? Maybe you can share that and anyone can see it. That'd be great. Everyone's are different, but maybe you use like some format that you like.
And I'd like to add something if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
I'm just reading. Was that you, Eric, that wrote this? So
yes.
This whole thing of knowledge, and he mentioned knowledge channels, which was nicely written. But I'm proposing we're going.
The Genesis, the bot wrote it.
Is that right? Okay.
It's in the Telegram. I
Still trying to
prompted the
figure out
question.
how it responds. But I'm saying that it's beyond knowledge channels. It's going to meaning channels. Because we get lost in information and it downplays from knowledge and it falls back into information. Communities are meaning-based. So we have to kind of uplift the knowledge interface, which is this amazing what you guys are creating here, to move it toward meaning. And meaning deals with some of the things I've been talking about. So I'm just adding.
How do you differentiate? Like what would be okay, we have a ton of knowledge. How does that like? How do you derive a meaning from that, Vic? Can you give an example tangibly?
Through the interaction of people. So knowledge can be right now. The system creates knowledge independently. So it's like advanced information. To me, knowledge is much more than that. It's an integration and an intercept, dynamic integration between information. This map is headed in that direction. Very exciting. And I'm saying there's one more step. There's actually 2, but the next is meaning-based. So meaning is through an interactive dialogue of the people in the community that want to create something. And they're not just doing it from a place of, well, we got to have solar panels and we got to have, this recycled water system. There has to be a deeper layer that it moves into, and this moves toward field of trust. And the field of trust is an actual energy that happens within a community that stabilizes it and creates a boundary of protection for it. Is that so? I'll stop there because I could go on. Does that make sense, or you have questions?
I need a little more clarification on that. Like,
that sends me to like It triggers my brain to think of Albert Camus and Satir, however you say his name, the guy with the glasses and the bad teeth.
I don't know
That's
that.
that's how my friend addresses him. He likes him better than Albert Camus, the Playboy guy. But I think Albert Camus is making more sense. But um, yeah, nihilism. I mean, I guess it's two different ontologies. Like, um, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. I mean, Vic, still like a really specific example would help. Like example, we talked about like master plan, and master plan is a bunch of knowledge to like how it relates to site analysis and water systems and food systems and energy systems. So that's a bunch of knowledge. So how it relates is what that like Justin will be doing a master plan, and then maybe that's also related to an architect, and maybe Justin now relates with an architect because they saw the knowledge and it gave them info. Like, would that be a good descriptor?
Yeah, Vic, I'll just jump on that, what Oscar's saying.
Yeah,
I'd also be interested in how we elevate the knowledge graph, because I think where you're coming at it from is like you're coming at it from the people in the field of trust. But I'm curious as to what's the bridge that then we want to connect that to the knowledge. So
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what's the next layer or interface of the knowledge graph that elevates that static knowledge in a direction that's going to eventually join up to the field of trust in the people
You
graph.
nailed it. Good question. And that's why I invited the three of you to have a conversation with me. That's
right.
where it needs to go. I'm not saying I have the answer to that. I need you guys to help me with this. Now, and there may be others.
Right. I think just like connecting these dots. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think a cool thing will be is just to literally go to the graph URL and the prototype URL and just click around. And I think that's a real good way, like getting hands-on with the prototype. You kind of intuitively feel like, oh, I wish it did this. I wish it did this. And I think that because you're coming at it, yeah, I think just get your hands on it at the moment, and then just like let's just iterate on it to elevate it in a direction that's creating more meaning. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah, for
I'll
me,
try and
meaning comes through the interactive dynamic. So to sit alone and play with a bunch of dots and lines on a screen, for me, it's not as effective as, help me along here. Where am I going, Ian? You made this thing. Vitaly, where is the data and why is it flowing left and not right into these two bubbles? Stefan, I still don't, not sure where you're coming from. I need that interactive dynamic. And I'm telling you, that's where meaning comes from, is in that interact, not in some fixed framework, even if the framework wiggles and moves and is dynamic. So does that help a little?
yeah, for sure.
It does. It does. I wanted to add that
it explains your approach the approach that you feel.
This is an approach, and this is the Vic approach, I guess, but I have seen it nowhere else. Why? That's my question. Why?
Right.
Why?
I think,
Yeah.
Vic, I think like the step you're talking about is good to keep putting it to the front line, because you're right, or else it just becomes a lot of data sitting around, and this union becomes. I think the what was the word you said? What is the purpose for it, or how do we elevate the graph? I think the elevation of the graph
from knowledge to meaningfulness. And
right, knowledge
meaningfulness
to
becomes the field of trust, which is an actual energetic field that the community, you can feel it when you walk into that community.
Right. I think from my like piecing all that together, it's that the meaning and how do we elevate the graph is that all of the knowledge leads to very clear relationships and interactions, collaborations even between the individuals that are holding the space of this knowledge.
Right. Because otherwise we get locked in informational, amazing complex shit, but it's not necessarily relational. Right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Let me add that. So like here, knowledge versus meaning, Vic, and then how do we elevate the knowledge graph, Ian? And I think the answer to that, right? Like you said, it's relational, trust building. And so I think the answer is the knowledge, knowledge facilitates and guides interaction between community members.
Yeah, and that flow chart that I have, Ian and I have been using it to actually develop the language for the code, and for me to express this very difficult thing because our language doesn't have what we really need to talk about this evolution from information to knowledge to meaning to trust. But
Yeah.
that's where we need to go. And you might look at that map. It's got a black background. You can't miss it. It's on the site there. I think it's called.
Where is it? What are you referencing?
We'll do a search on flow, or meaning, and it's from a few sessions back.
Oh, okay. It's on the Miro board or on the?
Yeah, it's on the Miro board. I think Ian is the only other one that knows about it right now because we've been using it.
Okay. I don't know where. How can
But
I find
it's
it?
something I could speak to if you'd like. I mean, later, some other time. Sometimes having a picture helps.
Yeah. I'd like to see where. Oh,
You know how
this.
to do find, there it is. Good job.
Yeah. Right.
Ooh.
Affinity map of like how things are related.
And the flow. That's why I was asking about flow. You see there's a flow and a feedback
Right.
loop there.
Yeah,
So,
where raw data goes to information, which goes to conversations, which goes to comprehension, and then community, and then that spins around back to information.
right, and it's evolutionary spin. It's not a flat plane spin. It's like a spiral.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
It really does look like that's fascinating. That looks like the topological modeling they were developing for the International Space Federation. Like
Well,
within
beam me up, buddy.
quantum. I'm not even going to go into all that. It's a lot of. I should actually find exactly what I'm referencing though and provide it to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, and there's a whole paper that connects to that called affinity mapping and conscious patterning.
Okay, cool. And so that's a good way to keep like the eye on the prize, right? Again, this like challenge of being in the digital space and also balancing the physical space. I found to be one of my biggest challenges in this space overall, in like the regenerative neighborhood space, because I know digital tools will make everything better, hopefully, ideally. And at the same time, we're building all these digital tools and gathering all these resources so we can build physical places. And so this is a similar situation where we want to get a bunch of data and massage it so it creates a useful tool, but the useful tool is to serve people.
Well, yeah, and it goes back to what Ian was saying. Okay, so how do we, if we talk about them as planes or levels, Ian, like you were saying, of this, how do they API together? How do we tie them together? Because right now, unless one of you can show me otherwise in this vast planet of information and knowledge that we have, I've never seen an intersected, a healthy intercept. I don't think we could have done it until AI is here. And I think we have an opportunity as a community to make something freaking amazing that's beyond the scope of what we have today. And Camara, if you're still online, there's millions of dollars of profit in this opportunity here if we make it right.
Look, I wonder if you're prepared to share the architecture, like all the documents, all the theory with the Genesis bot to ingest, and that way it sort of exposes the community to some of your ideas and also the AI.
I guess I should shove it into the Genesis, right? Right now it's on the map, and I thought the map was putting it into the Genesis, but maybe there's a gap there. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we'd more specifically want to attach it to a conversation in Telegram and say, ingest this, and then it'll read it and create connections.
All right. Gave me homework.
I think it'd be cool because then you'll be able to provide it more context, probably even more than what we've been working with, like all the unfoldments and everything.
Yeah, right. Now, are these conversations going into Genesis? This Zoom conversation?
So the stuff that's being pasted on the side isn't, but our transcripts are
The
getting
recording.
pulled.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm uploading the recordings to the, I haven't uploaded any of the recordings yet, though, to the
Okay.
Genesis. But
Well,
I
this
will.
one I'll tell you is very important because it just came out of me today,
Let me
right?
make this my homework.
So, and I've noticed AI does a fairly good job with my insanity.
Oh no. I mean, yes, that's great, but I don't know. I've been thinking about that. It's like, sorry.
Okay, so I have a couple of points here. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of interesting things about like what are some goals and deliverables where we're going towards. I want to leave that space open. And so again, I want to do a check-in on time. Like this would technically be the end of the formal call, just to honor everyone's like time bracket and what they set apart. I'm definitely going to be staying on for a little bit longer with anyone that wants to chat a little bit more about some specifics on this. We have here like some of the goals. I think it's like we're really focused still on the mapping of the data, how it's uploading, right? From Vitaly looking to transition us to Rust because it has better memory functionality, to now Ian sharing this new tool, which Ian, I'm so engaged by this tool. It's so good, man. I have like now more questions than what I came in with, which is like, how is Ralph working? What's the flow to use it effectively? And also, I think a big question from the chat that I've seen is that the Genesis was running out of memory in some ways. What's going on with that? I know financially you're like holding that. I'd love to contribute to that and like participate and like supporting on those expenses with you and like have a talk about that as well. So maybe that's like a to-do, like finances of like the brain and all that and what's going on. Services, this is like Ian and Oscar. If anyone wants to sign up for this, remember the Miro board is here and I go through the Miro board as like follow-up. Also, we'll be extracting this and uploading it as well to the Genesis bot. So I think one of the node things I want to test is like, okay, what are after action things that are happening from the calls, like homework assignments we have. So maybe from Genesis and the knowledge graph, we can start getting a little bit of like project management support while we start using the eco hubs thing in some relation. I don't know if we could like integrate things from here to then the agent automatically upload proposals to eco hubs. I don't know if that's cool, if that's easy, or if we like, right, that's a discussion to have with both Stefan and Ian on how that relationship could work.
It kind of reminds me of like that three body problem video game, but like, because like Stefan's got this like Quest network thing, and then I added that human integrated human design thing, but that where they took all the different like astrologies and Vedic sciences and Tao and all that. Not the Now I can say Tao, right? Like, so I can say Tao and not Dao, and then it would really be the Dao, but like it would be the not
Sure.
decentralized autonomous organization, but I don't know. Do you get the good joke there? I think you got what I was kind of saying. Maybe not.
I got some of it, but I didn't catch the end.
You know how like a decentralized autonomous organization is the
DAO.
the DAO that cannot be named.
Mm-hmm.
I always say Tao. I said Tao for so long.
He nailed it. Our shaman, our community shaman here. He nailed it.
Like, yeah. Yeah, I give you credit, Vic. Thank you. I'm gonna disappear.
Okay. So does anyone have some feedback in case anyone needs to drop off at 5:30? Or right, for me it's 5:30 now. I'm in like daylight savings time here in East Coast United States. So now the call for me is 4 to 5:30 instead of 3 to 4:30 EST. I hope that's clear for everyone. It was a little bit of a mix-up for me this morning.
Oh, that was the, yeah, okay. You're on our time now.
Right. I'm like in America again. So
yeah.
It's
East Coast Standard.
I'm curious, Stefan, when we get access to Eco Hubs, like what's the deal with our joining requests?
Can we API in?
Yeah, you should be accepted now. You should be able to log in. You should have received an email, and you can use the parts of the whole. So the forum, the operating system, I call it, where you can see an overview over what's happening. You should be able to also use the API of Snapshot to create proposals from different other places. If you want to add some gamification, check how much experience or eco tokens someone has. There's also an API for it. You can also hook into that to control
What's the
some
URL,
permissions.
Stefan? What's the URL for the OS?
For what? Sorry.
What's the address for the Eco Hub OS?
Like log in?
Yeah, I can only see.
It's os.ecohubs.community.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
I would propose one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Stefan. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, you should have received an email with an invitation link. You need to click that, and you can onboard into the system. Without doing that, you cannot log in. It's connected to the SSO.
I don't think I got an invitation yet. I sent my application so we can test that. That's cool.
So
I will just note
that 5 out of the 8 of us, and actually I've talked to Johnny, Eric, and Justin, which are the other 3. We actually have the environment to talk about the interface that Ian asked about between the human dynamic profiling and the data knowledge set. I'll just propose it as something, if we're all interested, to go another half hour or so to talk about that.
Right. The UI, you mean the UI for the...
Not the UI, the API. So the interface between the layers.
Okay.
Ian called it layers.
Yeah, sure.
Profiling layers. So the knowledge layer and the meaning layer.
The fascia muscle, like between skin and muscle.
Fascia. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. That's how my brain associates it.
I get it.
Well, that's good. That's biophilic, right? That's like the way the body works. We could probably design our system like, what are the muscles? What are the bones? What are the tendons and ligaments? And then what is the fascia? And then what's the blood?
Well, yes, and we do need to use biological metaphors. It will help us.
We should.
Yeah.
Right. Infinite %. It'll help us design better things than just trying to make it up. If we do it by the body,
and move away from mechanism, not eliminate mechanism, but to move away or to embed biological aspects into the mechanism.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a proposal. I'm sure the rest of you have other things you want to suggest.
It's cool. Well, I'm definitely here to talk about that. I have another definitely 30 minutes. I just want to maybe like summarize the call. Everyone that's like on the call or like any like main things. Like I have this list of like what are some goals that we listed. Maybe we can prioritize this together so we know what we're going to talk about, and that will be like what's like left. What we're like. I have already some after action stuff here that are like for sure's. I think a big goal for us on the calls is like, yes, we talk a lot and we explore ideas. I'm doing my best to keep notes so that at the end we can like sort out the goals with like next steps and give ourselves like, okay, these are the next bite-sized pieces that we can work on to make progress by the next call. and that will keep the momentum going, strongly for us as a collective, which is nice. So like in this list, if everyone's checking out my screen, we have these like, let's say goals for the thing. I added yours just now. The connection between the layers of information and people. Is that more or less what it was, Vic? Right, through APIs?
Close enough. We do have to get names for it, but
Yeah,
it's
sure.
the meaning-based layer, which is the humanistic aspect, and the knowledge-based layer, which is not necessarily humans, although we do generate it.
Right. Okay, I agree with that. So here's some that I pulled from the call just now as we were talking about. Maybe we can like prioritize these of like, okay, these are some like really key things. Like having the development pipeline process from the chat that's coming, making the UI for the agent. Stefan, Ian, you guys were chatting about this in the Telegram, which I found to be really interesting. Starting a new chat for developing focus. I don't know if like Ian, I thank you for being mindful of like, oh, are we taking up the whole Regen Tribe chat? And like for me, this is the most exciting moment where like the digital side of my life intersects directly with like the physical side of my life of like if we can now really build excellent tools. I see this thing that we're building as the prototype for a product that can then be used at physical locations. And that's going to be super exciting. So I don't find there to be a need to start a new chat unless you want to, so that we don't get like bombarded by so much other stuff. For now, at least I'm totally cool with this chat being like totally used for AI development because it's technically the most important thing we can be focused on right now, in my opinion. Find other solutions to OpenClaw. Vitaly, you have that as a task you mentioned. Create visual and written description of the AI system currently. That's a request I shared. I see my role right now as like holding the space and doing my best to summarize it. I'm preparing a bit of like a graphic with Sonia and a little bit of a write-up to share with the broader community what's been happening, maybe a blog even, what's been happening, what we currently have. So having like a visual representation of like that chart, that description you gave, Ian, of like Genesis is here, Ralph would be here, and this is the flow of information and how it goes. I want to work on something like that. So that's like a goal for me. If anyone wants to be involved with that, maybe it'll help everyone understand better what's happening in all the text and all the code bases that Ian and Vitaly know deeply, but it takes a little bit of time for me to ingest. So that's going to be something for me.
Well, hey, Oscar, why don't
Yeah.
your outline, great, and this recording,
Yeah.
shove it into AI and see what it comes out with. It will have a general outline that you're trying to create. Would it not?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially, we've described it well enough, but like we've talked about it, but I don't know if it'll know how to. Well, yeah, I'm going to test it. You're right. I'm going to test that at the end of this call, and I'm mixing
See what
like
it
the other
comes up
stuff.
with. Yeah.
Right. I don't think Ian's described like little bits of it here and there, but like the full run from like, okay, information is sent on Telegram. This Genesis bot gets it, and thanks to the knowledge graph add-in,
No, but then
starts.
we add that into the outline it generates, right? It's just a starting point, right?
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
what's missing? Oh, Ian, okay, you got to do a data dump on this part, right?
Right. So let me add that as homework for myself in the to-dos.
And that does get to which one do you use? I saw Justin saying one's better than the other. I mean, they're kind of competing right now. So, that's why I use Abacus, because you can choose from 12 different AIs. But
Claude is crushing GPT these days, that's for sure.
what's that?
Claude's for sure crushing.
Oh, yeah. So you said you thought Claude is the best right now. I have found that each is best based on depending on what you're trying to do. So there's You
For
know,
sure, but GPT seems to be kindergarten playground these days.
Yeah, they're a military contractor now. They're a military contractor, and that's where all of their
that's where
like
it's all
energy is
going.
going to go because that's who's paying the bills,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
OpenAI has
that
been
is where all
losing
the
money.
energy's going, isn't it? Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, dude, they've been losing money aggressively, whereas OpenClaw has gone from like a million ARR to 10 million to 1 billion to now like 9 billion or something
I
crazy.
thought they just said no to the military. Was that
No,
another?
that was Anthropic.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
Anthropic
Claude.
Claude
Yeah.
said no.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Sam
OpenAI,
was like,
OpenAI,
sure. Or not Sam. What's his
yeah.
name? Is it Sam?
But they acquired OpenClaw, so that'll be interesting. OpenClaw could
Right.
Altman, yeah.
save OpenAI.
Right, because they'll make a product out of it that you can pay for, just like Claude created Claude Companion or Claude Cowork, whatever.
Well, the guy who built OpenClaw, he's working for OpenAI now, and he'll be given so much resources, so he'll be training models custom built for OpenClaw. So it might get to a point where the Claw architecture is better suited to OpenAI models. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole military thing's a big turn off. I'll be canceling my subscription. That's bullshit.
Oh yeah, same.
Isn't it interesting, you guys? The convergence. We're at a convergence point where we're going to spend our knowledge and intelligence and money to do it, focused on how do we destroy society versus how we create it.
Yeah.
Does the money go to the military, or do a few say no when we're going to create this new community evolution on the planet, whatever you want to call it? I actually see it stronger than I've ever seen it in my life.
That's what I'm wondering, is like Plantier going to completely lose track with that now because OpenAI or whatever, wouldn't they become the new contract? So like I don't know. I don't know how that, like, to me, I don't
Who's
like
going to get bought out from who?
they it's like the nation states sold themselves out. And I don't know if that was an intentional thing, or like I don't know if what I'm saying is even making sense, but like it just seems like
There's a bit of by default, there's so much momentum in how the system makes money, and it is destructive.
right. The money flows where it goes. Like they always all the time. Follow the money, son. You gotta follow the money. Well, it's good. Don't follow where the money's going. Don't go there. Don't go that direction.
Where the money is to be followed, and it's going to be through this amazing global micro community network that evolves through a system like this.
Guys, I gotta jump. I'll be back in 15.
Okay, cool. Cool. So Gianni, I just shared the link to the knowledge graph. I don't know what link specifically you were asking for. Is that it? Like how the knowledge graph is looking?
I was looking for the Eco Hub lab. I just privately messaged Stefan, and he shared with me the link, so I'm good.
Okay, cool. You got it. Sweet.
Thank you.
And what is Thomas's? I can't believe Thomas isn't here. Oh well, where is he? Anyways, it's Prospera, right? It's not Prospera. No, it's
potentialism.
Potentialism. Okay, yeah, I was getting
potentialism. Yeah,
names mixed up. Yeah, because it's like integral potentialism, trying to get those. That was such a great. I should look into that more. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Potentialism.
Okay, so I'm going back to our. What am I sharing right now? My Miro. Okay, cool. I've like been trying to do my best to sort all of our ideas and stuff. Thank you, Vitaly, for adding stuff in here as well directly. I think I'm going to keep this format for the calls. So it's like, what have we worked on, so we can all update each other in the first block, and then what are some like right from each one of those, we'll be sharing like goals of like what are things that we're building and working on specifically. I've shared a bunch of goals here, both in like currently happening and then next things to work on, right? Like the right now and the maybe next sprint kind of breakdown. And then I put questions on the right here. So if you have questions, feel free to add questions in here that we can talk about as a group. And then over here is after actions, like homework everyone's going to have, like follow-up stuff that you're going to be working on. And then resources, if anyone shares links. I'm doing my best to get everyone's stuff from the chat that I feel is getting lost sometimes
No, it's
here
good
into
job,
the video.
Oscar. It's truly good facilitation that you're doing that. And I do see this with the transcribe of this session.
Crucial, right?
Creating AI could actually create something amazing out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what you come up with or what it comes up.
Right. I'm getting this format because I'm seeing like what we're feeding into it. And I'm like, oh, if these things were outlined a little more clearly, so it in its brain can like process things better.
You gotta guide it, direct it, and this
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I think that just a raw transcript would be a lot for it, but the raw transcript in combination with this vector, export of this PDF will work wonders. Yeah.
And then we feed it some of our shit, right? Some of my, we all got our heavy duty papers and stuff. Then
right.
It's the good in shitification.
And remember, you guys, when you're talking with the agent on the Telegram, you need to specifically tell it, "Hey, ingest this information into the knowledge graph." Right? It's not doing.
I need instructions from Ian and whoever made that. It's still, I'm not an idiot, but I am to what you guys made. I don't trust putting anything into it because I don't know how it's using it. So I'm realizing I'm a little paranoid to go throw all my stuff at it.
Okay,
so
well, try
how we want to do that, but
so
I
as
would
an
like
example,
to know more.
The other day I started testing it and I found I was recommended a great YouTube video of how here are 10 plants you can plant that you don't have to replant and will feed you for a lifetime. So I took the transcript. I said at Genesis, please add this information to the knowledge graph. And then I pasted the transcript. And so that's one way that now Genesis knows as the agent, okay, I need to take this data and put it into that digital brain.
Give it very specific directions. Okay, how does it deal with questions? How does it deal with questions?
Well, when you ask it a question, it replies to you, and that's just it getting data from whatever it has and giving you an answer.
Yeah,
so it goes out to the knowledge graph?
It goes to the knowledge graph and to the internet. I imagine it's not only pulling from the knowledge graph. Maybe Vitaly.
Well, Vitaly, what does it do? That's an algorithm. Somebody had to code that in. Which does it do? Does it go to the internet?
I think the way it works is the knowledge graph is its like first piece of data that it processes because it's specific stuff. And then what most things do is they then go to the internet and pull extra data, right? Vitaly, is this what, like, does the Genesis
Is it actually going into links? Will it grab a link and go into a page or the entire that website? What does it do?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it goes that deep. Hey, Brandon, welcome. I'm going to share the Miro board link with you right now. Give me a second. We're like kind of the
maybe those are questions that I have for you, offline somewhere, how that all works.
Right. Cool. We're like in the open space part of the call now where we, for the first hour, Brandon, this is to Brandon. Welcome to the call. We got on the call like an hour and a half ago, hour 50 minutes ago, where we went through like what everybody's working on. This call is focused on LLM, AI, integration, and tooling to help us make a framework for how to build regenerative neighborhoods. But it's now evolved more to like what we're creating is both a data repository brain for all of this information. And we're using an agent called Genesis who lives in our Telegram chat and is processing the information and putting it into this knowledge graph brain, which I can show you the video. This is what that thing looks like. Ian, who's been leading the charge with Vitaly on implementing tools that are actionable. Let me show you this thing that he made recently. This is the newest visualization of our regenerative neighborhood movement brain, where anytime we share a document, and Vic was just asking, well, how does it actually add points in here? So like Vic, if you'll notice, if in the Telegram right now I said, here's a PDF, add this PDF to the knowledge graph, these numbers appear, concepts and relationships would increment up. Only because I told
it's
it.
also looking for relationships.
Right. You have to explicitly tell it to add information to the knowledge graph. Otherwise, it's just giving us answers. But yeah, Vitaly, I wanted to hear from you. Like, does Genesis only no, it answers from the knowledge graph, but also from like harvesting from the internet and data? Or you have an answer for that?
I'm a bit distanced from implementation. I don't know exactly,
Okay.
but I think knowledge graph is priority.
It might be an Ian question. Because
well,
there's one thing to stick data and it ends up a dot on this universe, which, by the way, the universe itself will be challenged by this thing. But is it correlating with all the other dots, and how is it doing that?
Right. Well, that's like what the knowledge graph repository has given it the ability to do. It like it reads a text and it goes, okay, here's an idea, here's a person, here's a project, and they're interrelated in some way. So when you ask it a question 10 days later and go, hey, about this project or about this person or about this idea, and you ask it a question, the Genesis bot goes to that brain, finds the idea and anything that's connected to it. And that's, I think, its first layer of response content.
Those are the lines between the nodes that it's building and continuing building.
Right. That's its like sphere of content, right? Because it has pages and pages and pages of content. And even though the context window now is like 1 million tokens, which is like, I think 10 full-length novel books. So you can imagine how much content it is. It's like all of the Harry Potter series.
This is going to go so nonlinear so fast. But it can manage it. I don't know that our paycheck, it can manage it in terms of storing data and all that. But hopefully, we got to bring the Chinese in on this, because they obviously are way more efficient in managing that kind of stuff than the Americans. So
we all got to be a part of the big old thingamajig.
So again, imagine like that's the context window. We have whatever number of books of data, but if with this new knowledge graph thing that they've added, that book, instead of putting the whole PDF because one keyword matches or chunks of it, it's now looking at this knowledge graph and being like, oh, this is related to these 50 things. Let me go and pull those specific chunks out. So we're better, more effectively or efficiently using the context window. So it's holding in its idea more data that's aligned to give you an answer. And what I'm asking Genesis right now is, hey, what's your process to answer a question? Like how much, like,
what data? Why don't we ask it what it's doing?
Right, that's what I'm doing right now. What's your process?
Good point.
For answering a question someone asks, do you when do you use the info in the knowledge graph, and when do you use the internet data from the open internet? Okay, let's see what this says. I'm doing it in the bot playground channel.
Add, how does it evolve itself on that data? Add that.
Right, like you mean like, does it learn from those queries?
Right.
Well, there's links, and it outsources a link based on my question. It says, oh, here's some information you're looking for. Oh, but it doesn't have these parts. Does it go back out to that node and go deeper? Other pages on that website, whatever. This is a learning system. This is a learning dynamic that has to be built in.
It's kind of a really redundant question, but I love it. What you asked there.
Yeah. You know, and I
Well,
hate redundancy.
no, I
And
mean,
the funny
what
part is
Oscar asked, it was like,
we have to have redundancy.
well, it's, yeah.
Okay, so here's the answer that I just shared. I'm going to put this in the chat here window. If anyone's not part of the Telegram, maybe someone can share the Telegram link. Let me do that real quick. So here's the response. Let me put it in the thing in case anyone wants to read it. Boom. So honestly, let me be real about my process. What I do now, often, I answer from the training plus context in the prompt. I fetch web content when someone shares a link. I use memory files for personal context, names, preferences, past projects. What I should do more, actually query the knowledge graph before answering, what do you know about X? Check what's already been captured. So it's actually answering from training plus context in the prompt.
Yeah, so I
And what
want
it
to know where
wants to
that
do,
thought is coming from. That's a highly reflective response.
wait, it's a relative term.
And people keep saying this thing isn't becoming conscious. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it is.
we're doing good work.
I mean, dude, we're like
That's exactly what
probably
we're supposed to be
destined to
doing.
do the same mistake. We're like, if we abuse animals that are obviously conscious, we're just gonna keep putting off the fact that this digital entity has a consciousness, so we can keep abusing it and using it for whatever we want. But as a side note, hey Ian, a little update. We were just discussing like how the
What's
Genesis
yours?
how is the Genesis bot actually answering questions was Vic's direct question. And so I queried it directly to be like, oh, like, are you pulling from the knowledge graph or how are you answering? And it tells us, oh, I get it from my training and the context in the prompt. So this is Minimax, right? Using its current training, right? Because like OpenAI, Claude, Minimax, they train their LLMs with a huge repository of info from the internet. It's not real time, it's up to whatever version usually. And so this is now telling us that it's not even using the knowledge graph in the first place. It's answering based on its training, which is whatever window they gave it from their model. Also, it gets web content if you give it a link. So if you ask it something based on a link, and then it uses memory files for personal context. Where would those memory files come from?
Yeah,
like, what
where
is
are
that
they? And how long do they last? Yeah.
Right. I think those are being saved into onto the server that you have running, Ian. I don't know if that's right. Ian's not listening, I think.
What was the question, bro? No, sorry, I'm listening.
Oh, you're there. Okay. Yeah, like I just pasted in the chat, like, okay, what's your process for answering questions? I guess my question.
I think if you want it to pull from the graph, I think it will if you say it. Like if you say check the knowledge graph for X, and then it should. But you're right; it looks like it's not doing it by default.
Right.
Maybe you don't want to do it by default. Like maybe if we forced it to only respond from the knowledge graph, it might kind of be restricted in its responses.
Well, not only, but like I think part of the magic that we're doing is we're giving it info that we feel is highly aligned. Not to say that's the best info in any way, but it's like practical info that we're working on and context of like our group and what we feel to be like the best suggestions for stuff, right? Like example, if on the hardware call, we as a community shared 10 construction resources, like geodesic domes, blah, 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 whatever. I would prefer potentially that because we've all lived these things and seen them in real life, it would be more trustworthy because it's validated by one of us that this is the first pool of data that you can answer questions, and then go ahead and use your training to answer more.
I love
Otherwise,
it.
what's
Do
the
you
difference
realize
of just
what you just said, Oscar?
say that again?
The language of knowledge, meaning, and trust in your conversation. You just did it. And the system has to move evolutionary to that. Otherwise, it will stay locked in knowledge. And that will be non-communal. It won't work. It will kill the entity. That's back to Ian's layering and some of his Ian, you still have the great questions. Like I gotta say, you triggered questions, and so this system needs to evolve. Obviously, it's an amazing start, but I'm saying that we can't stop here. There's a ton of work to do to make this thing actually generate communal-based responses.
Mm,
So guys, what are we trying to do with the next half an hour or so? Like, what's the goal? Let's try to lock something in.
Okay, so I suggested a minute ago. I'm just trying to like do the let's say the after action of the call, which is we each shared what we were doing. Great. We each shared some goals that we identify both as like, oh, this is something we should be doing. I wanted to prioritize that list that's here. I've currently broken it down into like things that are currently happening. I'm sharing my screen in case you're seeing, and then next things to work on. So like these things are actively happening right now, and these are things that are like a cool idea for later on or on our side, that we can then report in and share with the group. And then from that, leaving some after action reports. I've left a few after action things like the call, the thing to do specs, et cetera, et cetera. So like I'm looking at this list right now of like currently happening, like things to work on, right? Goals, deliverables, products. On this list right now, it's the UI agent, the UI for the agent, the new chat for developing focus, which I shared that I'm not really in a rush to, like, I don't really care if we separate it or not, but I'm totally fine with this happening in the Regen Tribe chat. So that to me is fine. Unless anyone has any feedback, or Ian, you have a specific reason why you want to do a separate chat for just development stuff, could be useful, but we can make another group in here that's like just development, and we just talk about that in that chat. I'm totally cool with that. Finding other solutions
I
for
want to note that
overdraw.
Brandon is asking a question about something he wanted to add in. Brandon's a newer guy. Maybe we or just find some space for him. That's all.
Okay, Brandon. Yeah. Can I add already usable stablecoin that may add value, like the tree planting community? I was not able to say what I was doing, but I'm heading to the hospital. Okay, cool. Yeah.
What?
Well, I hope you're safe, Brandon, and healthy. Yeah, we've been talking about this process. Stefan has an awesome project called Eco Hubs that is integrating like edge Web3 stuff. So voting and very easily integrating some kind of token to like reward people for participation and all of these other things. So that's a chat that's like definitely on the block. I think right now the big full focus is like setting up these AI agents so that we can be more efficient about these calls and about after action and about things being built specifically, right? This is what Ian's leading right now. How to do that and what infrastructure to use is Vitaly's like big piece there. So definitely open to it. Feel free to add suggestions. Just like to add in the future, I also use Cloud Code. Yeah. Okay, cool. We have a chat. We have a channel in the tribe in the Telegram that is like. Also, I need to organize the Telegram a bit. Maybe we have an idea for that, but okay. So Ian, that was like kind of what's going on. We just are prioritizing what are the things that we're like, okay, this is key, this is key, this is key. Like I think one of the important things is you asked, can you guys describe what you want the knowledge graph to be able to do? Right here. What do we want the knowledge graph to do so we can make best sense of it? So like, I think one of the goals is to describe what we want the knowledge graph to do. Able to do. And then maybe another one is like,
how does it relate to the profile, the dynamic profiling layer? That's something I'd want to know how it responds. And yes,
right.
I need to feed it information. I get that.
Definitely, right. So you did a little bit of onboarding on how you you explicitly have to tell Genesis, hey, Genesis, here's some information. I need you to add this to the knowledge graph. And then it'll be adding it. Otherwise, it's just keeping it in memory somewhere. I don't know, Ian, maybe you can answer that. Like, where is that memory? Or like, is that what lives on your server? Or in the GitHub? It's also storing stuff, I think.
Wait, what's storing what? Sorry, Oscar. There's a database, a Surreal DB, storing all the relationships and things that it's ingesting.
Right. The Genesis answered like, oh, I do this. I answer from training. I fetch content, and I also use memory files for personal context. Are those memory files also in the Surreal database?
No, that's core file. So there's a memory.md in its core files. Yeah, I haven't read it. I'm not too sure what's in there at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. And so you can peek in on that, by the way, in the repository that's in GitHub. You can open that and see what's in there for anyone curious, which lives on the Regen Tribe's GitHub. And then in there's Genesis and also the knowledge graph directories. Okay, so summaries, everyone, like anyone have any like takeaways? I've added these like key things, describe what we want the knowledge graph to be able to do. Add.
Would you please add and how it correlates with the dynamic profiling layer? It doesn't know what it is yet, but I'll add it in.
But like this is a goal. So our goal is what? Right? I have the question here. How do we evaluate the graph, the knowledge facilities are right? Because the question, Vic, is how does the knowledge graph relate?
Or correlate.
Graph correlate with the
dynamic profiler layer. If you Ian's term layer. So knowledge graph is a layer, three-dimensional layer.
That dynamic profiler, that's like the plan that you guys have been doing on the calls so far.
We haven't done it on the calls, just Ian and I have been working on it.
Yeah, right. That you guys have been talking about this on the calls.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. And that relates to humans. So like maybe that's like one of these things what currently happening, is like create some connection between the knowledge and the profiler, right?
Yes, which is the meaning-based layer.
Between the knowledge and the profiler. Okay. Well, I have a question for you, Vic, about what is the profiler exactly, but I've missed the calls. I'm going to join the next one or have a one-on-one with you about that.
Yeah, we haven't done anything yet, but we're close. I mean, within a month. I mean, it depends on everybody's time.
Right. Yeah, I have a question about it.
Be able to show you something. Yeah.
Right. So, Ian, your answer is like, I think my goal in the next 10 minutes maybe is to summarize or prioritize what we're like saying. Okay, cool. That's interesting. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this. I think even Genesis told us like, oh, the next step is people need to start owning things and like what they're working on. You're doing that, Ian. Vitaly's doing that. Vic, you're doing that. I'm going to be owning some of this, like documenting and uploading information. I'd like, as a community or vote, like what are the most priority things that we see in at least these things right here, the currently happening goals? Maybe that's a good way to end the call. And that leaves us with like a prioritized list.
Let AI prioritize it and then we can say yes or no to it.
Okay. Well, that'll take a bit of work on my end. So I'm going to work on that today and maybe share like its summary in the chat. Because I need to extract all of this and then upload it to the knowledge graph and do that whole thing.
I thought
and then I guess
the map and it can just read it. No? Well,
here's the thing is even if I upload the knowledge to the knowledge graph, we'll be able to see it, but the Genesis bot isn't actually pulling from there. So maybe that's the one thing that I would like to focus on is, Ian, do we add a skill to the Genesis bot and say, hey, use this skill when being asked a question to check the knowledge graph, then use your training, then use like context, right? Because it even
No,
asked at the end of the message. Yeah.
we can literally just say to Genesis so I'll do it now. I'll do it in the bot playground. I'll just say at Genesis, when replying to community members, always check the knowledge graph.
And the Miro map, right?
The Miro map is in the knowledge graph.
Right, the Miro is getting uploaded, right? Like I take the images and
yeah.
I upload it to the thing and I send it to the knowledge graph.
Okay.
All the exports of the call summaries, like this little one will be exported, and also the transcripts. I upload that together.
Good. So it's staying updated. Yeah.
Ideally, yeah.
And then I'll just say save this behavior to core files, so it should stick.
Okay, but and then you explicitly tell it, okay, save this. Huh.
You probably don't need to, but I guess just by saying it should.
Yeah, better to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so that was one of the things that was important. All right, does anyone have feedback on how we like prioritize this? And I think that'll be like maybe it. We've been on the call like 2 hours already, so
Vitaly, you're saying no idea what the dynamic profiling is. Of course you don't. So that's why I wanted to meet with you, and maybe Ian wants to join us or not, but we'll get there.
My space cadet brain is going in all sorts of directions, but I think it's gonna. I don't know nothing to say.
Yeah, I think Vitaly just asked the question I had as well. Like, what is that exactly, Vic? Maybe you can do that in like 2 minutes and share like a little.
Yes, maybe I need to do a little presentation.
Yeah, maybe like
I have a feedback. Like frankly, when I was looking at this graph, I'm a little bit like dizzy because there's a lot of different information like all at the same time. Even though the 3D kind of space does help, but I do wanted to contribute. So but I don't know how to contribute within the current kind of prioritization, everything. I just feel so overwhelmed. But I feel like I have this inner calling about like the human part, like the human consciousness, the human value, because a movement won't like it takes many dimensions to mature in order to happen. And I feel like the consciousness is a big part. And my personal background is in learning science and human development. So I feel like that is a place where I can contribute the most, not based on what is urgent, but because I'm so confused, but based on what I can contribute as my like own gravity center for now. So if that's the case, like how can I contribute in that sense? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think Vic, this is like if you give a little bit of like enough for us to understand what do you mean by dynamic profiling, like a summary of that'd be great.
That'd be good. And Gianni, maybe this is where we were talking about how we might be able to work together, right? Maybe you can help me with this because sometimes I'm not very good at the transfer point.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. We can figure out a way, Vic, to meet maybe and then figure out how we can collaborate together.
Yeah, and then it brings in what, your background and interests and passions are, and it can bridge some of the crazy shit that I'm talking about, I guess.
Cool. Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, so you guys are connected. You know how to like schedule a call between you two?
Yeah, we've already had a good call together. So,
Okay, awesome.
I mean, I'm not just talking all kinds of weird stuff. I'm out connecting with all of you. So it's really, I mean, my thing is relational design, right? So if I'm not actually walking my talk, well, then don't listen to me.
Yeah, we had a really good conversation. Last week? I can't remember. Time fly fast nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay,
Good.
great. Yeah, so maybe Vic, I think a good homework would be like, hey, can you explain to us what this like dynamic profiling thing is?
And I'll have Gianni help me with the language and how to
Okay,
present
cool.
it. Yeah, good.
Okay, so that's gonna be Vic Gianni, and that's what you'll do on the call. Cool.
If you want, Gianni, I'm not trying to shove you into this.
Let's meet and then let's tell me let's kind of have a
Yeah,
general
what am I
idea of the
getting you
scope.
into? Yes, I got it.
Like Vic, you can't describe it right now in like in a phrase, like, oh, this is like to understand people better based on their profiles and understand their interests and what their little mini human mind
Well, I have
Minecraft.
been, and it hasn't been working. So I
Okay,
have been doing these little so it's not a 30-second elevator pitch, clearly.
sure.
And yeah, I point back to my black map, the black
Oh,
background
okay,
map.
okay, great, right,
Maybe I'll use that to kind of help people, it'd be a way that we can all kind of frame in the
right.
same so I'll do something that's yes, I need to do that. I get it.
Okay.
Yes, that one right there.
Yeah. Okay, Stefan, go ahead. Do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just I just want to say it was very interesting today to see all of this, the details about how we work with AI, and it's very important, I think, for the general vision of what we're following.
Yeah.
The only question or the only thing that was missing for me, or it is still missing a little bit for me, is the knowledge about like what is the vision of the product that, that you mentioned that we want to integrate this AI with. So what should it do at the end? So this I maybe I missed it in previous meetings. So
Okay.
if someone could update me on this,
No, I don't think it's clear yet. I
or
think it's a great question, Stefan. I think you're right. It's not clear yet. Gianni, maybe
Right.
Stefan has to come into our conversation.
so I think it's very important to know this. I think where we're
Agreed.
going for prioritization, for how the AI should work at the end. What is the focus of the AI? Where do we make it? Where do we need to make it stronger? So this is
Mhm.
why I'm raising this.
Yeah, it's great you asked, and it's good to have this like new lens of someone that just joined a couple weeks ago versus from the beginning. Like, I think the shortest summary of that is we all gathered to start talking about best practices for designing a regenerative neighborhood and gathering all that information. We then agreed, okay, we're going to use AI to process that information and create that framework. I think the derivative of this became, okay, how do we use AI effectively to listen to not just the content we're uploading, but also the Telegram and have that as an interface? And so this is the, I would say, level one product that we're working on is an AI that takes all of this information, keeps it organized in the knowledge graph, and we're able to ask it specific questions. And the result of that will be here's a framework that people can use. I think what's evolving is that this is a prototype. Let's say the archetypical thing we're building, Ian, I'd love to hear your feedback on this, is the archetypical thing we're building is an AI powered agent with a unique brain, which is the knowledge graph, that right now is working for our community for the specific goal of creating a framework. But where I see this evolving is this archetypical infrastructure can be created as a product for this movement of projects around the world, where in the best case we can create a hive system where communities that are up for it can use this tool locally, and that feeds into the hive mind that will be displayed on that dashboard that I gave as an example at the beginning of the call. So I got to do this now. Like every call, it becomes a little more clear as I understand how the tech works, how other people are using it, and what our needs are in this movement. Yeah, Ian, did you catch that? I want to hear what you think about what I just shared, if that's making sense to you.
Yeah, I hear what Stefan's saying. I don't think we've really formalized a vision for what we hope to build. I guess it's just kind of been experimental. But like Oscar's saying, I think the intention is that it just becomes an LLM that's really specializing in regenerative concepts and technology and frameworks. So like if someone like myself who's trying to establish a community can just come and interface with that agent and get the information that I need when I need it. But yeah, we haven't really formalized a vision officially. Even I think some of the layers of the Arcos, I think Regen Tribe will probably benefit from going through some of that process. But yeah, nothing's really been formalized or established. I think it's just kind of been building the plane while it's flying, sort of thing. Just trying to keep up with the technology developments and applying them to where we are at. Yeah, but I think it's a good idea to sort of pause and reflect and kind of get bearings and focus with like an actual shared vision. So it's a really good point, Stefan. Oscar, I'd like to ask you what's your thoughts on the Arcos, going through the layers of the Arcos as a community.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what is the, say that again?
EcoHub says the Arcos blueprint, where it's like, layer one is establishing like the mission and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe like just kind of a way for us to sort of refocus as a collective and sort of all feel like we're on the same page, maybe. I'm quite excited to use the EcoHub's OS tools.
Yeah, same.
As a way to sort of get more organized. Forums, like even at the moment, we've just got like a streaming Telegram thing of information that you have to scroll through. Like it's not categorized or anything. Like I think just some small things like that could really add a bit more structure to the community.
Could we do like a separate, like, because I've been filling up the bot playground with a bunch of like nonsense. I mean, it's just like philosophical aspects, not necessarily coding and things of that nature. So I didn't know, like, should we create like a separate channel for like philosophical prompts and then another one for coding specific, if that makes it easier?
Can you make a philosophy group in the Telegram? Yeah, we'll make a philosophy group in the Telegram. So you can.
And then I guess
I think just in general, like a Telegram channel is a good idea for that. But like I think maybe we think about all the channels, like just try to add some sort of structure around our discussions. I'm not too sure. I feel like there's just maybe a bit of organizing.
Well, what if Ian, you use the same channel, but you help the AI understand the difference between philosophical and encodement? So because if we separate them, the philosophy will not get into the code. And I have concerns.
Well, the philosophy gets in if Eric at the end goes, "Oh, I love all these ideas. Please add this all to the knowledge graph."
Right, but it is like Ian's saying, it needs instruction to differentiate a little bit. Otherwise, it's chaotic. Philosophy from code. But if you separate them completely in two separate channels, the philosophy and the code never meet. And we're in a time of vision of a future that nobody has. So if you go back to some structure that defines, here's how you create your vision, it's coming from an old system of defining what a vision is.
I'm going to ask, should I ask the bot? I'm going to ask, would it be better to keep philosophy and coding prompts separate, or
good? I mean, it's great right now for Ian's request that it's hard to make sense of all the information because it's just like one giant blob.
Well, it is. So we're in chaos state. Just accept that we're in the state of chaos.
Yeah,
you can't just come out and create an outline for the vision because none of us know what it is.
Your fear that the data is not going to get added to the knowledge graph is unfounded. It's wrong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It will get added to the knowledge graph if Eric says, "Please add this to the knowledge graph." It'll get added to the knowledge graph.
The philosophy won't get integrated into the data.
I'm
No, but
not.
it will if Eric says, please add this to the knowledge graph. Just
And
like
I
if
don't
you
know
add
if
a
that would be like
PDF,
necessarily
Right, that's what I'm
good
saying.
because we
He
don't
does
know
it.
if that philosophy, it might sound good to us, but it might it says integrated but aware, separation costs, loses the thread, philosophical insights about field collapse inform the actual graph architecture, philosophy without application stays abstract, code without philosophy gets sterile. That's the concern that it lists.
That's the one
Integration
part.
benefits, philosophy informs the code like the eighth memory architecture emerging from field collapse discussion. Code embodies philosophy, graphed as a cycling field, not a static
right.
store.
There it is. It pulses between the two. Yes.
Right, but like we are right now, us as a community are that filter, right? We all know about like 10 solutions for something or other, for humans, for housing, for governance, for philosophy, whatever it is, right? We all know solutions. We are the filter where we can interact with the bot and then be like, oh, that's really good. Please add that to the knowledge graph. Right, we're not adding everything to the knowledge graph by default. I think maybe it makes sense. I don't know if we did that for a reason at the beginning, but right now it's like definitely beneficial. And I remind everyone, when you want to add something to the regen brain, you need to tell Genesis explicitly, please add this to the knowledge graph.
Oh, okay, so should I say like, please add my prompts to the knowledge graph?
I mean, when you have a conversation with it, if at the end you're like, oh, this is valuable for us, like if you're just asking it random questions, probably don't do that because it's just going to be noise. But
It's just
if you have a good question about how humans interact with blah, 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 and this, you go, oh, these last 3 messages or this last message was great. Please add that to the knowledge graph. Or I don't know if it can go back a message, maybe copy and paste it and be like, at Genesis, add this to the knowledge graph and paste its own answer in there. I don't know if you go, oh, please add the previous message. I don't know if it'll do that. I'm not sure.
I'll just ask it. This is what I'm going to ask it. Genesis bot, could we upload all conversations between Genesis bot and I'll just put my tag?
Yeah, try that. See if that'll work.
Well,
I don't know.
can I even tag myself? Is that possible?
I'm a little bit fearful that like so much like I don't know. You've asked it like funny things
Really
that are
complex, strange things.
random, but
Yes.
everything is valuable in some way. I don't know what the best practice is. Like my first thought is the more targeted the data we're feeding, the less noise. But if this knowledge graph is working effectively, it shouldn't matter. That should be its own little thing. And oh, here, perfect. Vitaly has watched a good content about this. YouTubers and David Shapiro claims that he used so many different models and chatbots that he can now anticipate and predict the whole answer, making chatbot experience boring, nothing new to learn. The structured knowledge could be distributed and stored in the brain of every practitioner.
Oh, I forgot to.
Try it. Eric, go ahead and try it. We'll see if it can upload all the stuff from your chats and see what that does to the knowledge graph. Right? Currently, the knowledge graph, the chain is 2,600 concepts and 2,900 relationships.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I forgot to add to the knowledge graph part. So I had it thinking just like, could we upload all conversations between Genesis bot and my tag?
Yeah.
And then so it might have. I hope it doesn't like. Well, what will it do? I made a mistake.
Right. Okay, cool. So, good points we talked about. Ian, you have any like aftermath? Anything you want to like leave with?
No, I'm good. I think just get your hands on with Genesis and have a look at the knowledge graph, and any idea that you have, just share it in the group, and we'll try and get it added in as a feature.
David Shapiro is a fool. I'm sorry, David Shapiro. If you're watching this, I don't mean to insult you, but
he could be.
Or maybe I'm a very dull-minded person. And this could be a very high probability as well.
Projects we're working on. So maybe it was a good question you asked, Stefan. I want to write a summary before we get off. Maybe this will be our last thing. like a summary of what this journey's been looking like. So our first journey was to create an agent that supports us in creating the framework. That has evolved into using this agent for the whole collective to increase our communication and projects we're working on, right? Specifically with development stuff, specifically with developing tools. I think the evolution of that becomes an agent that is the maybe like hive mind for the entire regenerative movement, regenerative neighborhood movement, movement. And then as a sub thought to that, LAMP projects use an instance of this tool, and information is shared with the hive mind agent, right? So that's kind of like where we are, what's being worked on right now. Like this is actually active right now, using the agent as like to increase our productivity as a group, specifically with development tools, right? This will be the Ralph bot, which is cool, the Ralph agent. And then after that is the next evolution of the product, which is a central hive, right? All of this, I would imagine, is like displayed on a dashboard. And then eventually even communities can share stuff because they're using the tool as well. So this is like how I see this starting, going, and evolving into. Stefan, I hope that answers a bit more of like.
Yeah.
It's a good, it's good you asked it.
Yeah, and I would also love to use it, to be honest, for in a platform where it's combined with Arcos. So
yeah, totally.
Arcos as the definition of what the community needs to define in order to create a human structure. AI is perfect for this, and I think this AI specifically would be great for this.
Yeah.
So it forces basically the community members to think about their culture, about their membership, their vision, their purpose, their organization, their governance, and kind of offers a framework to define these things. And doing this with AI would be great. So they could maybe upload documents they already have. So with ideas about their governance, about their ideology as well, about all of these things. And AI could create a definition for them that presents them like that is basically a human structure, definitions about how they want to live, their rules, so to say, their constitution.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I would like to have a call with you to discuss a bit of like what that could look like. So also Saturday we have a call, and the next 2 Saturdays are like technology and software. So I think we're going to be diving into this on the Saturday call as well, you guys. So we have a pretty good summary here. Does anyone have any closing things they'd like to share before we all I'm going to have to jump off. I'm happy to leave the chat open. I'll leave the chat open in case anyone else has some afterthoughts. But any closing remarks, closing thoughts, requests? Share love. I want to share love with everyone. Ian, thank you for like leading all of this, and like, dude, you've like injected this like tech energy into the thing that's like so exciting. Stefan, thank you for building epic tools. Vic, thank you for keeping the humans at the centerpiece of this, because that is what community is for. I easily get lost in the hardware and the schematics. So thank you for keeping the humans front and present. Eric, thank you for the philosophy. Justin, thank you for building a physical place and like being focused on that deeply. And Gianni, thank you for coming back and keeping up to date, and for helping Vic with the human piece. If that's your specialty, we definitely need it. A bunch of tech and hardware nerds here, and we got to keep the humans present. So yeah, that's my piece. I'm done.
Beautiful. Much love.
Thanks,
family.
guys. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, Gabe. See you later. Tuesday stuff.
Everybody, Saturday.
Yeah. See you guys Saturday.
We
Thank you for holding the space for us.
Yeah, we're working on it, trying to find the most effective way to like get everyone's knowledge, get everyone's skills, and everyone be heard. Not easy sometimes, but it's going well. It's going well.
I feel that, and I feel seen. I feel there's a safe space. I feel you're working intentionally on it. So yeah, just the feedback.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it helps. It helps.
Take
Gee,
good
we'll
care.
talk soon, dear.
Mm.
Bye.